Chris Algieri is a funny ass dude. Going to talk about Erick is a cagey fighter. You know, I guess maybe was he making fun of himself with the whole cage thing? I don't know. But anyway, I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. No questions was answered for me when it comes to Chris Algieri versus Erick. At first, the first half of the fight, Erick seemed to be outworking him. Chris Algieri's shots seemed to not have been... Chris Algieri was throwing the more cleaner, effective punches, but they wasn't necessarily the harder punches, if you get where I'm going with this. I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live, December the 5th, 2015. Chris Algieri, unanimous decision winner over Erick. Erick was the late replacement for Roberto Garcia. I messed up. I forgot. Even though I covered the fight, I covered the whole saga. Roberto Garcia couldn't make weight, was dehydrated or something like that. And Erick was the late step in to fight Sean Porter. This was earlier this year. Erick gave Sean Porter a pretty tough fight up until, you know, the stoppage. So I'm thinking going against a lighter punching Chris Algieri being a lighter puncher than Sean Porter, that maybe Erick would give Chris Algieri some problems. And he did earlier in the fight. Chris Algieri didn't seem to be hurt or stunned by any of Erick punches. Erick, just like Chris Algieri, they both have 8 KOs, so they're not known to be big punchers anyway. But I just don't know. When it comes to 147 pounds, I don't know who Chris Algieri can beat. I don't know if there's... You know, I don't know what the path for Chris Algieri could be at 147 pounds to get a title. Now, we know the WBC is vacant. That is now up for grabs in some tournament. The first fight in the tournament is Danny Garcia versus Robert Guerrero. I don't know if Chris Algieri could beat a Robert Guerrero. You know, I'm kind of torn on that. You know, I'm thinking maybe he should... You know, maybe rematch Ruslan Provodnikov. I just don't know. And it looks like fighting at 140 pounds is done for him anyway. For a lot of people who don't know, people have been saying Chris Algieri should move back down to 147 pounds. If I'm correct, Chris Algieri only fought about 4 or 5 fights, correct me if I'm wrong, at 140 pounds. So majority of his career has been over 140 pounds in the welterweight division. So... I'm thinking, well, you know, who would I want to see Chris Algieri fight next? You know, Errol Spence was on the table, but I can understand, you know, after fans talked about it, I can understand why he didn't take the Errol Spence fight. You know, after having the tough schedule that he's had with Emmanuel Taylor, Ruslan Provodnikov, Manny Pacquiao, and then Amir Khan, you know, he needed a nice solid win under his belt. Also, he did score a knockdown in this fight, even though their knees had... Basically, he scored a knockdown in this fight, but there could have been another reason why Erick may have really went down. But to each his own, he scored a knockdown. But I can understand why he didn't take the Errol Spence fight. But like I said, you know, maybe Chris Algieri versus Aaron Martinez. You know, it's not no money in that fight for him, you know, especially for a guy who's been on pay-per-view before. But still, it'd be a good measuring stick fight for him to see where he's going to go in the 147-pound division at this point in time in his career. Because when it comes to the number one fighters at 147 pounds, can a Chris Algieri beat a Danny Garcia? You know, these are legitimate questions. Can he beat a Danny Garcia? Can he beat a Keith Thurman? Can he beat a Sean Porter? You know, and I have to ask those questions. And right now, I just don't see him being able to do so. So I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. Please subscribe.